Good evening, everyone. It is 7 o'clock, and it is time for the Wayne Township Board of Trustees meeting for February the 18th, 2025. Welcome, everyone. If you haven't signed the guest sheet in the back, please do so before leaving. We greatly appreciate it. Can I have a roll call?
You may. Mr. Kaufman?
Here.
Ms. Colvin?
Here.
And Mr. Jacobs?
Here.
All right, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next we are looking for an approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve those reports.
I'll second that.
Okay, voice vote. All in favor of approving the February 4th regular session meeting notes or minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Any nays, like sign? Motion is carried.
Okay. Are there any additions, removals, or disclosures from the posted agenda? Okay, thank you very much. We do have a public hearing for the James Arnett rezoning that would take place at 7:30 tonight. Moving forward, citizens' comments. Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much. Moving forward, road department report. Good evening, Scott.
Good evening, board. Not too much to update on other than the avenue. I was able to get it back open around 11:45 this morning. It presented quite the challenge. We had a lot of lawbreakers in the township. Either that or they can't read. Going around the road closed sign. So it was a little bit of bumper cars, but we got her open. I don't think I have anything else to update on my report. I'll leave it stand as it is. And this last snow went fairly easy, but had its challenges. I mean, we had for not calling for very much snow, at least a lot of the forecast wasn't calling for a lot. We were in a lot of whiteout conditions in the evening there when we were out working it. We had a lot of stubborn drifting areas, I guess, because the wind was just out. So that presented a little bit of a challenge, but got her cleaned up today, ready for tomorrow. Going into Thursday. And that's all I have, unless you have anything you need to pass
Yeah,
on.
tell the guys thanks for
No, thank you for
Yeah,
everything.
I will pass that along.
Nice job.
Yeah, we
Thank
have
you.
on the weekends and holidays.
That's right.
Yep.
That's the way it goes. You can't fool Mother Nature.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome.
Moving forward, fire department report. Good evening, chief.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. For our report, the Assistant Chief Lawledge sent me a proposal to have a 3-yard dumpster placed at Station 91. Right now we use cans that we have to wheel out every Monday and then remember to go get them. So anytime we're going to have a recurring cost, I like to ask and get your opinions on that. So it would be about $1,700 a year for us to have a dumpster on the property. That's just kind of engineering ease for us, so we don't have to remember to wheel the cans out. If for some reason they forget, the garbage tends to pile up. So just wanted to run that past you and get your thoughts on that expenditure.
What are you paying for the right now?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I'm ill prepared on that fact. I'm with it.
How many containers do you put out there?
There's 4, so
Okay.
generally we wheel out 4, but we have to wheel them out through the bay and things like that, otherwise we're gonna go all the way around the station. So for us having a dumpster, it's truly easier on us. It's kind of a creature comfort. But,
Find out at
Find
the
out how
next,
much.
yep, we're
Yeah.
in.
next meeting.
All right,
Discuss it.
next is, as we discussed, a pay raise for our members, for 3% across the board for the part-time members. And then also holiday time. I think we're gonna talk about that. So holiday time for the, all the recognized township holidays that we have. I believe there's 11 of them. The part-time members will get time and a half, and we will give 2 credits to our volunteer members that show up for runs instead of the normal run. We finalized our Warren County MOU, which you'll see, I think, a resolution for our next meeting for Engine 93 and Rescue 91 to go to the Warren County Career Center. Again, the caveat to that is that Engine 93, if one of our engines breaks, we will get that engine back to use in its place until the front line, until that engine that's broken comes back. The one thing I did have them change is they were at the MOU for 5 years. They're giving us 30 training spots in whatever class we want for those two trucks. They wanted to make it 5 years. I had them change it to 10. I think trying to get 30 spots in 5 years is going to be tough to do, whereas we can kind of spread it out over 10.
I don't know if I saw one for the engine, an MOU for that in our report.
I did not
Okay.
include that for next week.
Okay.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
just
Okay,
a
okay, just the
precursor
boat one,
for
okay,
next
great.
week. But on my report, there's two ways we glean information for our run statistics. One is through, we have access to the Warren County CAD, and that's the best one we can use for true numbers. And then we have ESO, which is our reporting software. So I ran a CAD report on Rescue 91, and since 2021, it's been dispatched 687 times, it's responded 187 times, and it's only made it to the scene 120 times since 2021. It has not responded over 500 times. So, while we maintain that piece of equipment, when we had the personnel that we used to have, it was a valuable asset, and we just don't, it's not getting out the door. So we're having to maintain that equipment in that truck, when we can downsize a little bit and send that to where it's gonna be useful at the Career Center.
Well, let me ask you this then. So one of the things I wanted to look at and suggest between you and Gus as well is coming up with a capital replacement plan too.
Yep.
Because you're talking about, now you're starting to get into some detail about some of the units and stuff like that, but I like to see like a bigger picture of what all this entails and what it looks like, right? Because we have budgets we gotta stay between, we gotta look at all that stuff, even with manpower and stuff.
Right.
I'd like to get a better comprehensive view from you guys. You know what I mean, Gus, have that Excel spreadsheet again, but try to get a little bit more detailed out for us in a work session if we could.
Okay.
That'd be great.
All right.
Because definitely, because like you said, 91, it'd be good to see, and then you're looking at possibly moving on with that to get something out, or not really get something else, but seeing what the credit could be too, so. But I mean, just looking at everything through it.
Yeah, so looking at, and that's part of that plan that I shared earlier, is, we're really taking a hard look at our apparatus and the equipment that we
Mhm.
carry on it. And a lot of that equipment that we carry on that rescue truck, the rope rescue equipment, and things like the water rescue equipment, all that stuff is supposed to be inspected annually, and we have 0 inspection records on it. So I'm not saying it wasn't done, we just don't have the records for it. They're nowhere to be found. So, that starts into, if we're using that piece of equipment and it fails, where's that liability? Or if we use it incorrectly, where's that liability for? So, so we'll look at that and come up with,
Okay.
I'll give you
Have a little work session
a
on
little
it.
work session on
Yeah,
it.
That's the main thing.
The Clinton Warren Joint Fire District MOU for the inflatable rescue boat. I met with Chief Buffenbarger from Sugar Creek Township, who, it was my understanding that they were one of our water rescue resources. They are no longer a water rescue resource for us. They are shore-based rescue, much like what we are going to, due to their lack of personnel, their lack of trained personnel. And again, putting a boat in the water is not as simple as it used to be. You have to have a lot of resources there. You have to have a rescue boat for the rescue boat, upstream, downstream, and incident commander. We currently don't have there's trained personnel and personnel responding. Clinton Warren does have, they keep at least one water rescue tech, if not 2. Both their chiefs are also very active and respond to a lot of things. They're both techs. Then we also have Clear Creek. And what we've done is, when we do this MOU, we contact the county and we front-loaded our water rescue details to have those units dispatched. So they will come, right now, honestly, the boat isn't even recognized in the CAD, so it's sitting there. The tech team comes and uses it for their water rescue, and that's in the MOU. The Warren County Tech Team will still be allowed to use it as well, and Chief Wysong is okay with that.
Do you want, I have some questions about that MOU. Do you want it now or during the resolution?
What,
I have questions about that MOU.
Oh,
Do you
yeah,
want it
you
now?
can-
Okay.
Now, then?
Okay. Which party would own the boat? It says donate, and I assume that means that they would own the boat?
Yeah, they would own it and take care of it, and then,
Okay, so at the end of the 5 years, what happens if the MOU is not re-upped? They would just maintain ownership of it, and there's no other, nothing else that we could do to borrow it, or?
oh yeah, we could act, we have a really good working
Yeah, I
relationship, so
realize
we
that,
would, if we need it, we'll call for it, and they'd send it,
Okay,
yeah.
and is there any, like, license, title, registration that needs?
Not that I'm aware of for that. I
And
know
if we have to number the thing like normal boat, don't boats have, in Ohio have,
Registration number.
You have to have a
number or
registration number, but that does not apply for an inflatable rescue boat.
Okay.
It's not on the water.
Okay,
They do have a boat, like a boat with a console and a motor that they register, but
okay,
for anything that, for rescue that doesn't have a motor or anything, we don't have to register, because it's not for personal or commercial
Right.
use.
all right,
Any other questions?
that was it.
Maybe not.
And then we'd like to hire Jacob HAINRIHAR as a part-time firefighter paramedic. Jake's another one of our Lebanon guys. He worked with me at the city of Franklin. He's young, energetic, and he would be a great asset to our department.
Good.
And then we've kind of discussed blanket POs and get your thoughts on that. I have 3 or 4 that I'd like to open, and I just wanted to get your input on the blanket POs before I ask for a resolution for those. And also Mr. Fitzsimmons' inputs and see if he's
Well,
willing to sign.
So, yeah, let's kind of step into that. One that falls full under the fiscal officer's authority by statute. So there will be a resolution,
Okay.
that's for my decision to make. Now, you did speak to me after the meeting, you didn't do any follow-up, and you brought it to the meeting, that's fine. And we can discuss offline about this, but, there are open POs. I don't have them per vendor because it doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense to do that from my perspective. But we could talk about that, certainly. And certainly if, the board would like to put in some input on this, but, the fiscal office, or the policies are in place, to protect the township and the money and spending. And so I guess I'm a little confused as to why we're trying to kind of usurp it a little bit. And I guess I don't understand the issue with how we currently do it.
Well, I'm not trying to usurp anything, and I'm sorry there was a miscommunication after the last meeting. That wasn't my intent.
Okay.
What I'm trying to do is open blanket POs so that I don't have to come ask for money every time I need something that's gonna be over my spending authority. I'll say I have.
Well, that doesn't, even if you have PO, you still have a spending authority. So anything above that spending authority has to have policy, goes to Gus, for anything above
Right.
yours, goes to him, that's 4,000. And beyond 4,000, then it has to come before the board.
Okay,
That's the policy, that's the resolution. Even if we have, which we do have, we do have some that are open. They're not typically to vendors, but some of them are, like AES. We have just an open, because it just doesn't make sense to have just a blank open account. But we do in some of those areas. So we do have some, but not for like your other specific fire vendors typically don't. But we have some open that are in, supplies and those kinds of things. But the standard was, according to the fiscal policy that was agreed upon by the board, that anything over $1,000 anyhow has to be, have a standalone policy or a PO. And for the purpose of that is that it makes it easier to track and understand where the money is going. Because it becomes easy when if we purchase, well, as a good example, there was 3 computers that were purchased through the Amazon account. So it went to a blank PO, and that PO was written, well, it wasn't written to them, it was just a supplies PO. And so it came off our credit card. So to find those computers and a term to track it, makes it very difficult on the finance office. So the purpose of creating some of these steps, one is to control spending, but then 2 is to make it easier to understand where the money goes, because it's very hard to plan for the future when we don't know where the money's going. And so that is why many of the policies were put into place. And certainly I'm able to work with you, and if you think that it's not really an issue with, Scott is a good example. If he just calls me and says, hey, I need a PO for this, typically I get that turned around within 30, 45 minutes. Gus will sign off on it, and then the worst case scenario, I create one and call the trustees, and they can swing by and they do checks and other things and sign off on it. So there's no real delay per se, and if you're spending above 4,000, I would think that there would be a process anyhow for that purchase, because that's a large sum of money, you know. So we would want to know, you know, one, do we have other vendors that could do it cheaper, you know, give us the same bang for the buck. But then, so we're not spending, I guess, large sums of money very quickly, and that's not typically a smart way to manage our finances. Because at the end of the day, it's these people's money, and,
I understand
and it's not a personal account. So those are why, but I mean, if you want me to work with you, I mean, I'm
Yeah, so
always
why-
willing to work with you, I just don't understand the issue. And you could bring it up or contact me.
Apparently, we're not speaking on the same, we have a misunderstanding.
No.
So, since I work, this is my full-time
Sure.
job, your schedule is, I'm not sure what it is.
Right,
Why don't you and I set a time aside, you give me your schedule, I will make sure I'm available,
yeah,
and we can go through this and make sure that we're all on the same page.
yeah, absolutely.
All right.
What were just curious, what were like the 4 things you were thinking about? You said 4.
So, for Boundary, where we get our medical supplies, 911 Fleet is who does all our maintenance for the apparatus. Phoenix, who does our uniforms and gear,
Okay.
and the other one was Stryker for our cop maintenance and.
Are those typically over 1,000 each instance, or over
Uh,
4,000 or anything?
Most of it, yeah, I mean, Boundary not, because that comes and goes, I mean, that's, you know, they
It
might
just-
buy 6 Band-Aids one week, and the next week it might be, you know.
It depends on what we're getting from Boundary.
Okay.
Now, that 911, that does the fleet maintenance, they're usually typically more than that. I mean, we just spent $5,000 on oil
The township has,
and safety checks. I mean, that was a
zoning board,
big,
no,
big
that's
bill.
at 7:30.
But we have, you know, those are supplies or repair maintenance account, or those types of things, and we do have, they're open, it just doesn't have to be specific to a vendor. They are open, but still, spending authorities have to be monitored. So, I mean, if it's above that, particular spending authority, then that's why, you know, it goes to him, and us, and you guys, to ensure that we've got the proper checks and balances. But there are some there, and usually they're processed pretty quickly as well.
Okay. So, will you send me
Yeah,
dates and times you're
sure,
available, and I'll make
yeah.
myself available too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. And, just to follow up on Squad 92 has been out of service, it should, the parts in, they're coming first thing in the morning, so that should come back in service tomorrow.
Thanks.
I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all I got, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Okay, moving forward, zoning department report, being Stacy.
Oh, good evening. Aside from the public hearing that's tonight, we have an upcoming meeting on March 18th, which are major modifications to a previously approved site plan, which was Bentley self-storage. This is a little confusing because the Board of Zoning Appeals was the approving authority, but when there's a major modification, it has to come through the trustees. Although I will say, in this case, their major modification is actually kind of a shrinking of what they want to do, but it just meets the definition. They'll have to go back through for another approval. Started working on the magazine, I've got about a half a dozen advertisers so far. So everything's due March 3rd, and we'll have that out the first week of April. So looking forward to all of your articles. And
Always a fun time.
it is, everybody's like, oh no, let's do it again. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Stacy. Any other questions for Stacy?
I have none, thank you.
Moving forward, the administrator's report. Good evening, Gus.
Good evening, Board. We received the checks from the TARMA for our more grants, $1,000 for the fire and EMS, and $1,000 for road department. Those were for calendar year 2024. So now calendar year 2025 is open. On the fire department, final report and summary from Ryan Woodward of Clemens and Nelson. On the FLSA recommendations are ready for board approval. We have legislation for that tonight. Properties, had several meetings and calls. Actually, spent quite a bit of time the last 2 weeks on interested parties. And we're looking at different scenarios of whether or not to sell the whole thing, or just a couple people are just interested in a portion of it. I think we had something else come up yesterday that may warrant next board meeting to go into executive session to discuss properties. May have also invite in what would you call him, Scott? What's his title? He's real estate agent.
Commercial real estate agent,
Commercial development and so forth. So he had some meetings with him yesterday that may add some light and some value to what we decide to do and what we decide to accept, and maybe it'll give us a fair market value and stuff like that. So we'd like the board to consider possibly listening to their thoughts. I'll leave it up to the board to decide. Court Avenue, the advertisement's been posted for bids that are due for March 4th. That's our next board meeting. They'll be open at 5 o'clock before the board meeting. So hopefully we'll have guidance then on who is the lowest bid for the Court Avenue project. And then the next item, Warren County Hazard Mitigation Plan, that's a 5-year update that has to take place, and there's takes about 3 months, there's 3 meetings. First one starts tomorrow, and so Fire Chief and myself will be attending that tomorrow. We had to fill out some paperwork and turn it into the county, and we'll go through that exercise tomorrow. One thing we're changing the lead on, I'm changing the lead over from me to the Fire Chief. So he's gonna be
Surprise!
And he was agreeable, amenable to that, thank you, Chief, for that. And the last item I have is Hometown Expo. We have a flyer on that is, we get the date on it, March 29th, I believe it is.
Yeah.
And I think with all the things that we have going on with recruitment and everything for memberships in the fire department, and also with our zoning BZA, it may warrant us having a booth or whatever there to talk to the public and put our face out there. And I guess we'd like the commission to go ahead and book that and get us a spot in it, and then we'll share.
I support that.
Are you talking the silver? I think the first level, the second level.
I really didn't, yeah, I put that in there. I didn't preference it.
See, it was, bronze is $100, silver, 300 gets you the booth space. That's the first one that gets the booth space, hopefully.
That will probably be sufficient.
Yeah,
So, okay with that, I will go
we're
ahead.
good with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm good also.
Okay. And the only thing I have is,
Expo, chamber event.
yes, I should ask for permission, just a reminder, I do have vacation scheduled for March 16th.
My bad. Totally forgot.
through the 24th. The only thing I have is I just thank all the heads for keeping everything running and going. It's pretty smooth.
Excellent. Any other questions for Gus?
I have none. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Gus. Got 5 minutes. Not to put you on a time limit or anything, but.
Well, I don't have a whole lot tonight.
Okay.
We gotta work.
Good, Brad.
So we talked about, a month or so ago, maybe in December, we asked the county auditor's office to start giving us advances, towards our, settlements, and they started now, so last week we got a settlement this week, and so it'll, right now it's a little quicker pace but after a while it'll be just, once a month, but we've started to receive that now, which is good news. So we'll begin to start putting that away and make the interest on it rather than the county making the interest off our money. Let's see, and then, so SCU, as I discussed before, they received our documents, but apparently they've got quite a few people that they're doing. So our time slot doesn't start until March when they're gonna start scanning, documents. Now, where the catch is, I'm guessing we're probably gonna have our audit in April. So hopefully they get done, or they'll be able to have the state just move our audit down. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of back and forth. And really, that's it.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
I try to keep it short for you.
Appreciate it. Okay, moving forward, old business, sale of properties. Any other discussion?
Yeah,
Any other old business?
No, I have none.
None? Okay. We'll go move on to new business. Questions or concerns with the bills?
I have none.
I have none.
Motion to approve payment of bills presented for payment.
I'll second. Brad motion, I second.
Okay, that's
Yep.
what I was going. I hit them a little too quick. All right, so it'll be a roll call vote. Mr. Kaufman,
Okay.
Ms. Colvin,
Yes.
and Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
All right, this motion's carried.
Okay, legislation, we can at least get one resolution maybe out of the way. Resolution 2025-21, a resolution approving part-time pay increase and holiday pay for Wayne Township Fire Department employees. Chief's already touched base on that. Any other discussion needed? We
No,
doing
the only thing, Gus is, we're gonna have to change our employee manual for
yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna have
it?
to
Okay, that,
Okay. So do I have a motion to adopt resolution 2025-21?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-21.
I'll second.
All right, roll call vote. Mr. Kaufman,
Yeah.
Mr. Jacobs,
Yes.
Ms. Colvin?
Yes.
All right, this resolution's passed this 18th day of February.
Okay, we got resolution 2025-22, resolution adopting the findings and recommendations from FLSA compliance from CLEMANS and Nelson Associates from the conducted independent audit of fire department compensation policies and practices. We've seen the paperwork, the reports.
Yes.
Yes.
Any other questions?
No, I think it's laid out good.
Okay,
Yeah.
I appreciated his work very much.
Yeah.
You came in under budget.
Very nice.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to adopt resolution 2025-22?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-22.
I will second that.
Roll call vote. Mr. Kaufman,
Yay.
Mr. Jacobs, Ms. Colvin?
Yes.
This resolution's passed this February 18th.
And Mr. Fitzsimmons, the exhibit A that is attached to that should be underneath all that. It was emailed out separately to the board, and that's what they're making their approval on. That attachment should be 6 pages there.
Okay.
Okay. It is 7:30. We're going to go into, okay, no problem, go ahead and do
Yeah,
that.
please.
Let Stacy get set up before we start. The Wayne Township Board of Trustees shall now come to order at this time of 7:31 for a public hearing that was scheduled for 7:30 PM on February 18, 2025 for a rezoning application 3200 State Route 73 C recreational to R1 residence single family. Stacy does have a PowerPoint. We're gonna let her share and explain the application and the reason for this hearing. Also, if you haven't signed in the back, please do so before we're leaving. We'd greatly appreciate it. The order of proceedings will be, everyone has the right to speak either in support or opposition and ask questions. However, to ensure an orderly hearing, we ask that before speaking, you state your name and address for the record, and time limits for each speaker will be set at 5 minutes. First, we'll hear from the applicants, then we'll hear from the proponents, then the opponents. The applicants will be given the opportunity to address any concerns raised after all have spoken. So, Stacy, it's all yours.
So I'll have this PowerPoint and then a few area reviews that I'll show. So first of all, I just want to go through what the review process for a map amendment is. And it started with the Warren County Regional Planning Commission, the Executive Committee recommendation on January 23rd. And it went to the Wayne Township Zoning Commission public hearing on February 6th. And then the trustees are the decision-making body. This parcel ID is 0513100006, and it's at 3200 State Route 73. It is 93.85 acres. The future land use map shows it as mixed use commercial industrial. The current zoning is recreation. The proposed zoning R1 allows single-family homes on 2 acre minimum size lots. There's public water available at the site. So the Warren County Regional Planning Commission Executive Committee recommended approval of the James Arnett Jr. rezoning from C recreational to R1 resident single family to the Wayne Township Zoning Commission. The Wayne Township Zoning Commission recommended approval to the trustees of the rezoning request 3-1. This is just a chart with some information so you can compare. So the current zoning of recreation, so it's currently zoned recreation. They're asking for R1, but the future land use also shows something a little more intense, which is the mixed commercial and industrial. So under the current zoning, single-family homes are a conditional use. You can have uses such as campgrounds, commercial swimming pools, day camps, boarding camps, retreats, event or recreational indoor recreational centers, and commercial parking lots for recreational vehicles by site plan, which means they're allowed by right, but they come to the trustees for site plan approval. And then there's uses such as miniature golf, which would be allowed as a conditional use, which would go through the BZA. These are just a sampling of some of the potential uses under the current zoning.
Stacy,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs has it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you give a high level of each of the ones for the people in the audience about a site plan review, the high level of it as it goes through the process, and then conditional use?
Okay.
So they can understand a little bit better.
Yes. So when something is a site plan, it means that in our zoning, it is what we would call a permitted use. So we expect that those type of things may occur in that district. They're allowed, but they have to come through a site plan approval where we lay out the parking and landscaping and stormwater and all these issues. And the trustees are the ones that make a decision on that. They can still reject a site plan if it fails to meet the requirements or would have an undue negative aspect on someone. But that's different from a conditional use. A conditional use process goes through the Board of Zoning Appeals, and they take a look at whether it fits in that district or not, because we we, in terms of zoning, we expect we might have that use in that zoning district, but it needs a little more eyeballing to see if it fits in that particular location. So it may be allowed as a conditional use in R1, and that's a good fit one place but not another, so it goes through a different process. So those are the differences between the two.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So they could have gone, this could have gone, stayed recreational and gone through the BZA as a conditional use.
That would be for each individual home.
Oh, each
and
individual
then-
home would have had to do
And
that.
then, because it's a conditional use, it doesn't have, a specific lot size or anything. It's just like
Okay.
each one would say like, okay, that lot, should that
Okay.
house go on that lot? Should-
Okay,
is that-
yep.
I believe it would be per house. And then, under R1, the main permitted uses under R1 are single-family homes, and that's a 2-acre minimum. We have campgrounds as a conditional use, and then you can see like these pools are prohibited, camps can be conditional, event centers, these parking lots are prohibited, miniature golf is prohibited, churches are conditional use. And then I did not, put on here, the future land use, but, business, think about business and light industrial would be, if it got rezoned that direction. All right, let me see if I can, give me a minute every time. I want to show you the zoning map, just a second here. So right here, we have our zoning map. This is the property, that's in recreation here in the corner. The surrounding zoning, you can see this yellow color is R1 single family. So all of these properties that are already zoned single family, if they wish to subdivide, they would proceed directly to Warren County for subdivision approval. They would not come through you at all because they're already zoned R1. Our role would be, in terms of zoning, would be for me to certify that it meets our zoning code and make sure on that aspect that it wouldn't come for a public hearing through Wayne Township. That shows the current zoning.
Can you, while you're on this map, can you show all of the recreational zoned lots or properties in Wayne Township and what they
On
are?
this map, yeah. We might have to scoot a little bit. I'll just start here. This is the Girl Scout property. This is the former golf course. This one down here is the Soaring Club. And these are just U.S. United States government properties and state of Ohio properties that have to do with the lake.
Is, well, I'll watch this one.
Yeah, that's for the most part.
And then that's Spring Valley Marsh, I think, or something up there.
This,
That, yeah.
yeah. So state properties.
State property. All right.
All right, so now so this is the future land use map. The purple is mixed industrial, commercial, kind of, I guess, seeing this whole corridor, since some of this is commercial, is possibly being commercial, so the future land use map just means that, we didn't, the trustees did not make a decision to rezone based on the future land use map. They leave it there as an option, and the landowner can choose to, ask for rezoning to those categories. So this category that they're asking for is less intense than the future land use map. The yellow, I forget the exact name of this thing, it's suburban residential on our future land use map. It is in the quadrant of the township where we expect more development. You actually see more development already in this corridor than you do elsewhere where we have more what we call rural neighborhoods. So that's the future land use map. Any questions about that? Then I have the aerial view today. So this is, this parcel outlined in blue is the rezoning request. The adjacent property is zoned R1 already, owns both parcels. Like I said, this is not part of the application tonight, but I consider it educational for those in the audience, for everybody to know what we're talking about, like worst case scenario. If you develop all of that property, there's 2 parcels, and you subtract out the 15 acres of ponds and the roads and so forth, you're looking in a rough ballpark estimate of 50 to 55 houses. You know, just basically, don't know for sure, it couldn't be much more than that at all. Because even though we have a 2 acre minimum, sometimes you carve out a lot, you create the lots. Every lot isn't necessarily gonna be as small as 2 acres.
What was your estimate on the roads?
I'm sorry?
What was your estimate on the roads?
Oh.
Of that 15 acres? You said it was a little.
No, the
15%.
ponds,
Oh, 15%.
I said the
Okay.
ponds are 15 acres.
Yeah. 15 acres for the pond, 15% for roads and right of way.
So, although, you know, that's not what you're considering, but I just wanted them to be aware of what it could look like. And that's all I have, unless you have any other questions.
No?
Do you know why it was ever zoned recreational? I know it's long before your time, but.
We were talking about lunch, and we talked with Gus too, and we weren't 100% sure why it's zoned recreational, but one point is, you know, it's been that zoning was for a long time, and nothing has come of that for use ones.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions?
No. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Stacy, for that PowerPoint presentation. So next, we're going to hear from the applicants. So if the applicants would please step forward. Please state your name for the record.
I'm Jerry Williams. I'm a real estate broker with J.M. Williams Realty. Our address is 9602 State Route 48 in Centerville. Thank you, Stacy. I appreciate you. I'm going to probably reference this map. I'm here on behalf of the owner, Jim Arnett, and we are attempting to unify the zoning across both of those parcels into the R1 zoning. He owns roughly 53 acres to the east of this property that's already zoned R1, and our contention is that an R1 zoning unification would be a more appropriate zoning for this property as opposed to the future land planning of mixed-use commercial. When I was here speaking to the zoning folks, there's no sense in beating around the bush. We have all of this property under contract, and the intended use would be a residential development. I'm happy to answer any questions. I really, we're so early in the stage, I really can't get into specifics about what that development is gonna look like. I think 55 houses is pretty strong. I don't think we're gonna have to. Aside from that, I don't really have any other comments. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have, but.
You have any questions, Mr. Williams?
You did, yeah, you said in your application it would be 2+ acre lots.
Yeah, we're not asking for any higher density. We're gonna do 2 acre estate style lots. Yeah. That's- Yeah, we'll comply with the R1 zoning. We're not gonna ask for any higher density.
It'd probably be tough to get.
I would imagine, yeah.
Any questions?
I do not.
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Next, we're going to hear from the proponents. So any proponents that would like to come forth, speak? Okay, seeing none. Then we're going to hear from the opponents. Are there any opponents that would like to come forward? Any opponents? Like to come forward? Yep. This is your last chance, only chance? Okay.
Yes.
So after attending the zoning meeting previous to this, at the end of the meeting, it became clear to those of us that were in the room, me anyway, because I come from an education background, that the zoning representatives who at the end made the comment that they don't understand why the schools would be in opposition to new development because of all the tax revenue that would be coming to the school. That exhibited to us that were present that had understanding of school finance, that there is a lack of understanding of how school financing works. And my question in the midst of that was, why doesn't a request for rezoning that's going to bring a multi-family development into the school district, why is that not communicated to the school ahead of that request? It's come to my attention that is not taking place, that the school is not necessarily aware of what is being requested. And after the developers are stuffing their pockets and leaving us who remain in the school district to have to pass additional levies to build new buildings to accommodate the influx of new students that these developments bring in, I think that there should be some means for that school district in particular, who is already at and beyond capacity for the buildings that they just recently built, to have some kind of impact fee that would be considered for the school district to offset the cost, so that those of us who remain in district and will not have to pass additional millage and levies for the school district to be able to accommodate the influx of students. It's my understanding that right now, between 100 to 125 is a typical class size for Waynesville schools, and with that, you look at, that's a whole grade level of students that would have to be accommodated in buildings that are already at capacity. My name is Yvonne Kosheveski. I realize I forgot to say that at the beginning. I live at 3050 East State Route 73. I also own right next door 3072 East State Route 73. And my property is directly surrounded by Mr. Arnett's request for this development. I'm not naive enough to think that this is not going to be developed. I'm just asking that those of us that are left behind to live in the midst of this surrounded development do not have to pay the funding for the additional cost that's going to then offset onto the school district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other opponents? Okay. Hello, how are you?
My name is Sam Ison. I'm the superintendent of Wayne Local Schools. So I don't reside here, but obviously I'm here each day, so you can see me over at the complex here. I thank you, Yvonne. Actually, I wanted to get here and kind of listen to some of this, and it's not so much that we're against any kind of things of developing and such, but we do want to be partners and making sure everyone understands the impact that something like this will have on our schools. I think when I came here to Wayne Local Schools back in 2017 as principal, I realized very quickly that I think everyone here, at least that was my impression then, and then as superintendent, has been to maintain what we have in the facilities that we have and where we are. And so when the elementary was built, which was 2021, I was not superintendent, but I know that they did a study that gave some indication about what that would cause and the, how they were gonna build in case there was actually some kind of growth. And so I know they worked closely with several companies along with the Warren County Residential Commission, I can't think of that name of it, that basically said that there would not be that much of an increase. Over the years now, when I left as principal and then came back as superintendent, we were sitting at 1,500 students, pre-K through 12. And now in 2025, we're seeing that almost 1,700. So we've gained about 200 kids. We are maxed out in our facility at the elementary at this point in time. Actually, as they were building, I think they realized then that that building was not big enough. They had the 6th grade in it, and that's when they decided to use the LFI and include the 6th grade over into what was known as the PAC that was being built to offset it. So it's working. It is working. And the same holds true for 6 through 12. Now, again, we don't have, I'll tell you up front, we don't have as many kids sometimes when they get the junior, senior level because they do CCP and they do other things, and they go to the Career Center and not pull as many of them out. So we've got that pretty well settled. My concern is basically what Yvonne had said, is that I am worried about how growth would be with children moving into the district, and what that would do to our numbers and where we're at now, and the possibility of what we would have to do to expand in order to take care of the numbers as they would grow. That is a concern of mine when we look at the class sizes and how they've grown. And she's right, we have one class that's at 115, 18, 108, and then we have this year senior classes at 141. So it's been moving up. We are growing in the sense that we obviously do have, and I'm very proud of that fact, great schools. And so we have a lot of people from outside that want to move into this area. My biggest thing is I keep hearing that people think if we grow and you have more kids coming here, we're going to get more money. And that is not the case. That is not the case. It would take an enormous number to get us all. We are on what is called the guarantee. And so we're set there, and it's not going to change unless I still hear from the State Department and the governor's office that that may change someone. And if that takes us off the guarantee, we will be back in front of our constituents pretty quickly for operating levy. That will be necessary. So my main thing is just making sure you understand numbers of kids coming in does not help us, does not get us more money. It does mean we have to provide more services. It does mean we're going to have to provide more teachers. It does mean we will have to provide more room than what we have currently, because we're pretty much maxed out. And I'd be glad to give anyone a tour and take you around during the day and show you where we're at with that. That's my only concern. I just want you to know that and not be led to believe that that's different. And also people think that by building more homes, that means that extra money's coming in. And what happens is it just means that that's just divided among more people. So actually, those of you currently living here and more homes coming in will decrease your amount because it would just be spread out over a period of time. That's just what I want to get across. I think that as a superintendent of schools, I've got to make sure you understand where we're at and what we're going to have to do in the future. And I want the local fathers that be here of Wayne Local School District to understand that if you want to keep that small concept of the schools, you're going to have to think about this over a period of time and help us realize that we may come to a point in time that we may have to even buy more property in order to build more schools, because we can't build any more on that. We can add on, I've looked at it, I've thought about that, adding on to the elementary and the high school, but by not much.
So how do you see that communication happening? Because, I mean, this one comes before the board because it's a rezoning request, but all these other yellow ones could be divided up into 2 acre lots and wouldn't come before us. I mean, Stacy would know about it because of the subdivision, when they subdivide things,
Right.
but do you see that going to your school board, or, I mean, how
They
does
get
that communication work?
If there's a full subdivision, the regional planning, they're on the list
Okay.
that gets
We get notified.
notified.
Okay.
There's like a list of agencies, and there's like
Okay.
10 different things
Alright.
up there. So this is only unusual because it's not zoned R right now.
Right.
If this property was in residential right now,
Mhm.
it would be going straight through in the subdivision process.
Okay.
So were you guys notified on the property that's outside of our township? That's on the north side, line of 5 points as you're coming down, the new plat that's going on?
I've been notified via just that the recommendation's been coming forth and people have told me.
Yeah, because those are smaller homes,
Right.
1/4 acre, 1/10 of an acre. And I think I calculated 112 homes in
I
in
know,
40
but
acres. I mean, and that's outside of our township.
Yeah.
I mean, people want to come here and be here. You guys have done a great job with the school system, right? But the pressure is being put on all of us. It is coming down.
Yeah, I understand that, and let me kind of clarify that too. I know about that happening and such, but it's not really been officially brought to me. Now, there was, I think, a developer came to the trustees here back in the fall sometime, because that individual did contact me and talk about either single-family homes or going to build condos, which would be more for senior citizens and stuff.
Not us, we don't have that possibility for condos.
So it's not your guys, so it's another group. I did deal with that, so that may have been what you're, I don't know,
That's good.
outside of the township.
Yeah.
And I did talk to them about that, and they backed off the single-family homes and went with looking at the condominiums, which would be mostly for more of the senior citizens. But I did have that discussion, otherwise, no.
I know you did a presentation for us last year or 2 years ago, and our growth, the number of permits you've issued for single-family homes is down. I mean, it's way down.
I mean, it's about 10 a year.
Yeah.
So this is the largest thing I've seen in 6 years, and this is 50 houses, so this is the first year I've seen anything other than just what I call like a minor,
Yeah.
somebody splitting 5 lots off.
Right.
Most things I see are somebody picks up a lot off of,
But we're also looking at possible potential 18 homes with site
Well,
plan.
that one is.
That's another one that's here too, that's-
That's 18 total. These are,
Correct.
it's about 50.
Yeah.
Well, and I appreciate it, and I'm not trying to, stop any kind of problem.
I know people have questions about the schools is a major concern.
Right.
I mean, even for us as residents too.
So I want that to be known, and I will say, so that you know that in 2017, when the bond issue was passed, I know that the board and the superintendent had a company come in and they did this residential study, and that's why they ended up building this elementary at the size it was. Then I did go before the Warren County Commission, Resident Commission back in 2023, and at that point in time, they gave me the assurance, really, and I still have that information, that it would not be significant growth over the next 5 to 10 years. So we're trying to plan accordingly, especially financially, as you know, and of course, watching everything that's happening with education and the state budget and such. So that's my biggest concern, to let you know.
I think that, when they say slow or low growth, when we go to regional planning and they put up the charts every year, we're always at 0. So those are like platted, when we're talking about subdivision type lots, in all the years I've been here, every year we're at 0. So most of all the other townships have, subdivisions and they have lots. So I think that's why they consider us slow growth. I mean, we do have the random houses appearing, but we don't have we haven't had any true subdivision growth in a number of years. So I think that's why we're slow, but we do pick up, of course, the houses that are
Right.
not in our
We
township.
understand that, but
Which is
I guess, too, what I hear, sometimes people don't quite understand, I think some people, at least brought to me, they think that's going to help us financially, and that's just, I want to make sure they understand,
Yeah.
that will not.
Right.
That's the key to my whole point, is just to know that. If I
Right.
can answer any other questions, I'm glad to.
Any other questions for the superintendent?
No, I appreciate
I
that.
appreciate you
Yeah.
coming.
Thank you
Makes
for
sense.
Thank you.
Yeah.
talking with us,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you for your insight. Okay, any other opponents? No more opponents? Okay. So,
I just have a question. Because I wasn't
could
able,
you please come to the podium and state your
my
name?
voice carries, so you can't hear me.
Come forth, I appreciate it.
My concern is as far as where this is located, so close.
Can you please state your name and address for me, please?
Yes. Glenn Call, that's C-A-L-L, and I live on Madrid Boulevard, which is part of Caesars Creek Estates, next to the lake. So I do a lot of traveling back and forth, 73. And I lived there 25 years now. So I have seen this growth starting to happen. I came from Springboro, which is now a major city. My husband grew up there and saw exactly how it has exploded. And I feel that this is going to happen here eventually. because this area has started to pick up more and more. And I'm sure everybody recently got their taxes, their property taxes, and saw how it skyrocketed. And I wanted to also find out how they audit, who does this, and where does that money go exactly?
Who audits what? Are you talking
On
about?
the property taxes.
That comes from the county.
That's the county
Has it-
auditor.
We don't have any.
You don't have any
No.
clue where that money goes?
Well,
But you
we
can
know,
go,
you
yeah,
can go to your.
you can go to your tax bill and look at the distribution,
Yeah. it
Okay,
goes to
well,
the
we
schools
passed
and
no
goes-
levies here,
right?
and the increase was assessed to the house, okay? And it's huge.
Yeah.
We all were,
And I'm opposed to how, they do this every 5 years, is that correct?
3 years.
Is it 3? Okay. Well, I am retired and on a fixed income. And to see how much mine went up, granted, I've got a couple acres and we get nailed for that big time because it's not farmed. And I wanted to stay here the rest of my life. But it keeps going up the way it is, it's gonna be impossible to do that. If you're pushing us elderly people out the door. And I have a problem with that.
That is all, like I said.
I know,
comes from
it's the county, right. But the thing is, getting back to how this area is just flooded. And the traffic is another problem. Because this is next on 73, and I was just wondering if anybody has said anything about the infrastructure on the roads and stuff
That has not
around.
been presented to us.
Yeah,
I believe that, I mean, we can go to the applicant when we're done with the
Yeah.
opponents, and we can ask questions again, but I don't believe that has been laid out or anything.
okay.
So therefore, we have no knowledge, they have no knowledge, they don't have to share it with us at this moment, because that has not been laid
Is,
out.
I don't know, I know some of the states have been doing, and I think you kind of mentioned it, the lady.
An impact fee.
Yeah, an impact fee. Why haven't we tried to do something like that
But it's nothing's really come up until just now.
just now? Okay.
There are some
I
fees,
mean,
but
Impact fees have, unless they're really tied to detailed and justified, or whatever, has been deemed illegal. Hamilton Township had impact fees as far as townships.
Is it like per home or is it per
It would be
development?
per development, and, they had impact fees, and so much per lot went to schools, and so much went to
See, I think,
their thing. And they actually had a lawsuit against them, and had after, I don't know, this was on for 5 to 7 years or whatever, and they had to go back and pay back all the
So
impact
that is-
fees that they would collect.
so if the state stepped in and imposed something like that, would that be possible? For the whole state? I mean, you see what I'm saying? Not just for each county.
that sounds like
Yeah,
a
that's-
comment you would have to make to your state rep.
I know,
as a state senator.
yeah, that's my next step.
yeah, oh, yeah.
I'm just trying to go from, what do I do first, you know? Because I think, I know it's impossible to stop growth, it is, but, it's like the superintendent was talking about, you know, we don't have the funds. And if this keeps going, I mean, we're not gonna be passing any levies.
Well, that's why, when we were trying, we want to
And
keep
we-
everything
we
2
need
acre
to-
minimum, you know.
To
just
see
to-
the impact fees, if we could have something that would go, like, say, 10% per home in that subdivision, go towards the schools or to the infrastructure, whatever we needed to keep things rolling along, instead of just things getting overwhelmed as far as, you know, problems with the roads and the schools.
Our Ohio Township Association and our state legislature has mentioned that there are grumblings at the State House about giving townships other avenues than property tax in order to, raise funds to conduct the services that we conduct.
Exactly.
And so, and I noticed even in the news last night over in Indiana, they are facing very similar things, and their legislature is doing the same thing. They're looking for other ways of funding, of readjusting the funding mechanism, realizing that the there's a hardship and a burden being put on the elderly and people that are staying, trying to stay in their homes. And
Okay.
so,
There's a lot of us out
so,
there.
yeah, there's a lot of people, and I think it's opening up some eyes that, in Columbus, that, gotta find other ways than just property tax.
I
It's
know,
not so hurtful or
I know, we have, Waynesville is it's an area for outsiders coming in to visit all the time. And is there, I probably have to go to Waynesville to talk about this, but to help the schools out as far as like an increase in the tax, call it like a, what am I trying to think of? Like if you go to Gatlinburg, they have an extra tax
Like
on
a sales tax,
Huh?
like they do a sales tax or something.
Yeah,
on it
like
to be
an
able to-
extra
yeah.
sales tax.
That state of Tennessee has helped that out
Well,
as well, the county, because the counties, we went down to Gatlinburg to play volleyball, and you get taxed everywhere you go to, or you go down and do that, that helps fund that area too.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If they could even put on an extra 1/4%.
Now, I noticed some
sales tax.
townships like right down the road where Dayton Mall is, they have a JED, which is Joint Economic Development District.
Okay,
That's where you're taking the city income tax and put it over to the township properties and being able to tax the people that are working there to create revenue for that area specific. And then the township and the city both get a little bit of revenue from that stream.
it's like a tourism tax is what I'm getting.
Yeah,
at.
and you got the hotels have their
Yeah.
little things too, yeah,
And I
Airbnbs
think,
have it and
we
stuff,
get
yeah.
so much traffic from people all over come here. Oh, you live in Waynesville? Yeah, I love going there. I mean, they're coming from all over.
I think
I'm
Brad's
gonna
gonna stop
I
us.
have to put you to stop. You're over your 5 minutes, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Appreciate,
I can go on.
appreciate your comments. Yep. Thank you very much.
Anybody want to take over?
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
So you
you.
didn't answer my question, is that
We're
possible?
not able to answer your question.
Oh, you're not, no. We don't know. Who would I find?
I would,
Do I have to go to the?
you can talk to us after the meeting.
Wayne,
You
huh?
can talk to us after the meeting.
Oh, okay.
Maybe look into
I was
that, okay?
thinking, do I have to go to Waynesville?
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Are there any other opponents? Okay. Please state your name and address.
Brian Wells, 9271 Fair Road. I want to agree with her back there with the school issues. I've always, we don't have any kids ourselves, but I've always watched the state reports, seen how they've gotten all good grades, good scholarships, good graduation rates, and to see the numbers, okay, you're going to dilute the quality over having more homes in. With that, you're gonna have, like the gentleman, the superintendent said, you're gonna have more seats, more teachers. Where's all that resource money coming from? I live up on Lytle Ferry, and I used to be able to walk from my house down to Lytle, 1 mile, and not have 1-2 cars pass me. I can't get out of my driveway now. So that's the other issue, is like the other one was saying, traffic. How's that study gonna be taking place with Township line, the traffic going in and out of that subdivision, how's that gonna be managed? And the 2 ponds that are there, is that gonna be affected with all these homes with the runoff downstream for those people? So those are gonna be answered. So I would say at this time, you're gonna, you can't slow down growth, well, you can't stop growth, but you can actually slow it down. And I think this is the point in time that you guys have to make that decision, slow this thing down. Keep it the way it is until some of these other numbers with taxes in the schools, they all start to make sense to us, people that want to stay here without being taxed to death and have to move out. So that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents? Any more opponents? Okay. So, would you like to come forth and answer any questions? I mean, you have this opportunity if you want to, you don't have to.
One thing I will talk about is the traffic impact. We're just simply not there yet, but if we are successful in getting this rezoned and we do, embark on the procedure for site plan approval and engineering approval, there's a traffic impact study component of that process with ODOT, and that's exactly what they evaluate. They evaluate traffic on Township Line Road and traffic on 73, and then they give guidance on how this project will affect that traffic and what we should do. So that is part of this procedure, but we're just simply not there yet because we don't even have the engineering down at this point because it's just too early. I really don't want to wade into the school issue. I agree this is certainly going to affect the schools. My kids go to Waynesville. I've lived in Waynesville for 41 years. The number one driving factor for growth is the school system. If Waynesville is a bad school, people are going to leave. Waynesville is a great school, and that's driving growth. So all these yellow properties here that have the potential for this R1 zoning could be future subdivisions, and we should prepare ourselves for that possibility. The current tax impact of Mr. Arnett's 93 acres is $5,800. And it's going to significantly increase with this development to the tune of nearly $1 million, based on the auditor's rough estimation of what a 2-acre lot and the house will be worth. So the school system gets, I think, 70% of property taxes. So and maybe I'm missing something, but I don't see how the school wouldn't at least potentially benefit from additional funds from this type of thing.
And there's a 3-year look back on the CAUV also, right?
That's correct, which is almost 80,000. It's a big number. And so that's a component as well. And I don't think I'm going to dive into any more school issues. I think I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
And you have to go to soil and water about the ponds, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a hydrology study that goes into the runoffs and all that stuff. And there is 15 acres of ponds, but there's also a potential that we're going to have to increase that number in order to handle some of the runoff. So it's, like I said, I think 55 houses is strong. I don't think it'll have 55 houses.
And that's not really for you to say anyway.
It's not for me to say.
You're not the developer.
I'm not the developer, and it's not even really for the developer to say, because we're gonna have to go to the planning commission, and they're gonna have all kinds of feedback, and then we'll eventually be right back here, and you guys will have all your feedback as well. So it's a process, and everybody gets to be part of the process. It's not like we just ram this thing home.
I don't have any more questions.
I have
Yeah,
nothing
I
else.
think I'm good right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So no other questions, so we're gonna close the public hearing. And I need a motion to satisfy closing the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I will second that.
8:15, what it is?
It is 8:14.
Ms. Collins, you said you were second?
Yes.
Correct.
All right. Just a voice vote, all in favor of closing out the session, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays, like sign, motion carried.
Okay, so we're gonna continue on with our resolution here, we're not gonna jump down, we've got 2 more in front of it, so. We have resolution 2025-23, a resolution acknowledging the state competitive bidding threshold amount for 2025.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-23 for this resolution.
Second,
Are you ready?
Yeah, I was trying to find the resolution. Okay, roll call vote, Mr. Kaufman,
okay,
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Ms. Colvin?
Yes.
All right, this resolution's passed this 18th day of February.
Next is resolution 2025-24, resolution approving entering into an MOU with Clinton Warren Joint Fire and Rescue District for the transfer of one inflatable rescue boat.
I have my questions answered,
Yes.
so.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-24.
I'll second.
All right, roll call, Mr. Kaufman?
Yay.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
And Ms. Colvin?
Yes.
This resolution is adopted this 18th day of February.
So next is resolution 2025-25. It's a resolution adopting a zoning map amendment to rezone 3200 State Route 73, 93.852 acres from recreation to R1 residential single family. So,
I'll say what my thoughts are. And looking at what the other recreational zoned properties are in our township, they all make sense. I'm sure Holly Hills one day may not be recreational anymore, if that ever becomes development. That's no longer a golf course, obviously, but the other ones all are actively used for recreational purposes currently. And I asked my dad used to live in the township way back when, and I said, Dad, did you ever know if there was a fishing lake or anything on those ponds, or, was there anything recreational? He's like, I don't remember, because it was Mahaffey's before this, I guess, and, I just don't understand why it was ever zoned recreational, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't even be here today, it'd be R1 anyway, like everything surrounding around it. And I don't like growth in the township, like everybody says, but it's hard to hold a property owner back from changing something that doesn't make a lot of sense. So, that's my thoughts.
Okay.
So, just wanted to publicly put it out there.
I guess my thoughts are that I don't want to hinder a property owner from making a change and do what they want to with their property. Especially if, like what Diane said, if it doesn't make sense. I mean, it's not recreation. Never been recreation, it sounds like. So that's just my thoughts regarding it. I don't know if Mr. Jacobs has anything that he wants to add. You don't have to, obviously, but,
Mine's very simple. It's like you say, you're talking about schools, talking about, I coach up there, right? Full disclosure, junior high football coach, right? I see the kids coming in, I see all this stuff. 50 homes, I see homes up even north coming in and some of the other areas. It is not bad to slow down growth at points, and that's just my opinion.
yeah.
Is this always the best way of doing it in decision making? Probably not. But we gotta take that into consideration around our neighbors, our friends, our families and stuff like that. So that's part of my thinking, so.
My thought is that it's, right now, we understand what they're wanting to do, but it's simply just going from recreation to R1. It's
Correct.
not the subdivision or anything that hasn't been decided upon.
And I'm not against growth.
Yeah.
And I know what it is entails.
Yeah.
But when I get, again, we go back to the application, and the application does say houses in there. R1 houses, and so we already know that it's gonna be something at 3. So that's what I'm saying, is it's full disclosure on it, so.
Well, and on one of those other properties near there, we looked at the future land use map to see what it said, and I don't agree with the future land use map on this one, because I
No, I don't either.
can't ever see anything, business-wise being in there. That would not be a good spot net,
Yeah.
so,
Well, we have it across the street.
right.
It's not there.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with what you guys are saying, but again, I go back to the standpoint is that we don't have to be the norm. We don't have to be the one getting pushed around and stuff like that. I think we can take a step back every now and then to see where we're at and what we can do. That's all I'm saying to it, is that, we have people come here and talk about things and their opinions and voices are being heard, so, which I thank everybody for doing that.
Thank you
But
for
that's
that.
my thoughts, it's my opinion, so I'm ready to vote.
Okay. So we have resolution 2025-25. So we have an option for in favor of the resolution or not in favor of the resolution. So do I have a motion for either one?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2025-25
In favor of it?
in favor of it.
Okay. I'll second that.
Okay, roll call vote, Mr. Jacobs,
No.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yay.
Ms. Colvin,
Great. Yes.
that was a yay.
Yes.
Okay, motion, resolution's adopted this 18th day of February, 2025.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Next is resolution 2025-26, approve the acceptance and hiring of Jacob C. HAINRIHAR to the Wayne Township Fire Department as a part-time firefighter paramedic. Chief.
I'm sorry.
Chief,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Chief, sorry.
Jake is a solid guy. He would be an asset to our
Perfect. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-26.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Kaufman,
Yay.
Mr. Jacobs,
Yes.
Ms. Colvin,
Yes.
and this resolution's adopted this 18th day of February.
Okay. Any other new business?
I have none.
No.
Okay. Any correspondence that we'd like to share? Correspondence? No correspondence? Okay. Okay, any elected officials' comments?
No, I appreciate the road crew again. I want to say again for cleaning the roads. I think you guys did a heck of a job coming in 2 different waves. We're getting more coming in as well. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, right? You guys giving your opinions, stepping up to the podium and stuff like that. Thank you for doing that. Appreciate it. You know, your voices need to be heard. We heard them. So that was good.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you for coming out. I mean, you could have been doing something else, but appreciate your attendance tonight. Trustee Chambers?
I got taken out of here on a phone call, and I would, guess request that you, call for a short executive session on the sale, acquisition or sale of, property.
Okay. There you go.
Okay.
So like this one, work session run.
So I make a motion to go into executive session regarding ORC 121.22G2, purchase or sale of public property, since premature disclosure of this information would give an advantage to certain individuals. It is essential that the discussion of this activity be handled privately by the trustees. The final vote on this decision must be made in public meeting. I'd ask that the trustees and Gus go into the conference room for a quick executive session. Do I have make a motion for that? Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
And that is at 8:24.
Roll call vote, Mr. Kaufman,
Yay.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Ms. Colvin? All right.
We'll be back.
We'll be back.
I'm retired now.
Okay, we came out of executive session at 8:42. Mr. Jacobs made the
I made the
motion. Ms. Colvin seconded. We're all in favor of it. So, barring any other conversation, which I'm hearing none, is 8:43. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
I will second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays, like sign, motion is carried.
Sweet.
We